But what's interesting in this sort of bipartisan grilling of the Wells Fargo chief is what he knew and when he knew it, a sort of a Watergate-style questioning, where he had to have been aware of these thousands of accounts that were added and business boosted, and to say he was ignorant of course, would stretch the laws of incredulity. Now, others are saying he's the top cheese, he's the big guy. All he knows is that accounts are being opened, and he's satisfied with the results, the revenue's coming in, even though it wasn't much revenue, so much ado about nothing. Now, when he became aware of this, he says then he realized that these were bogus accounts, false accounts. He put a stop to it, but it took some time. So a lot of folks are saying either you're in charge, you know what's going on, or you're not, and you're a doofus. In either case, you shouldn't be around. You shouldn't be running this bank. But they are looking more than just for a pound of flesh here. They're looking to fry this guy. That's pretty clear here. Now, there are many people who look at this and say, who are they to talk about financial propriety and what to do with money and all that? But it is what it is. Jonathan Hoenig joins us. Dagen, McDowell. We've got Basil, Smikle with us. Dagen, to you first. What do you make of what's going on here and how this will all be resolved, if at all?
I do think John Stumpf is going to end up losing his job as the CEO. I think the writing's on the wall. When that happens, no one knows. Beyond that, though, and the egregious behavior at Wells Fargo, these lawmakers, particularly the Democrats, they're all about controlling the pay of corporate executives, and particularly those in the banking industry. And I think that that's the direction that they're trying to go. Regulators in April proposed rules about financial pay, about Wall Street pay, including clawbacks that go back 7 years. The banking industry then fighting back against those proposed regulations. But that's what we're talking about. They're going to make this act like this is about John Stumpf and the $41 million that he has given up. But it's about more than that. It's about Washington controlling the pay of corporate executives.
You know, Basil, there was a great deal of criticism led by Senator Elizabeth Warren last week that big banks are still getting away with murder, not literally, but saying that a lot of things are under the category of financial hanky-panky, and that wouldn't have happened if we were more vigilant going after this sort of stuff early on. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and you know, I agree with a lot of what Dagen said, except for the fact that just towards the end, I don't think this is simply a Democratic issue. I mean, the Republican candidate in Donald Trump, at least early on in his race, talked a lot about the system being rigged until we found out he sort of did a lot to rig the system himself. But having said that, I mean, he talked a lot about...
Why should we even bother talking about Hillary Clinton's relationship with the industry?
No, but I mean, we're talking about the financial system here. And the truth of the matter is that...
I just find it interesting you picked the sins of one candidate.
No, but let me just say this. I really think that both Democrats and Republicans are looking at this and saying, you know, this is the kind of behavior that caused a financial collapse in 2008 for so many people to lose their homes and their jobs. Something has to stop.
No, this is apples and oranges. Jonathan, I just want to know, why should we equate the sins of Wells Fargo, if that's how you want to look at it, with the sins of everybody?
Well, I mean, Neil, this is mob extortion. I mean, this is a shakedown. And, you know, the point here is, as our panel's already alluding to portray all financiers as these, you know, shysters, as these frauds that would rip you up at the first opportunity. You know, this was a $2 million fraud, or $2 million stolen at a $2 trillion bank. And, you know, Neil, fraud is a fact of life, but it's not a way of life for companies like Wells Fargo, which actually have very high ratings. So if Maxine Waters wants to be upset about something, or these Congress people want to be upset about something, what about looking into not the $2 million fraud at Wells, but the $150 billion of fraud at government every year?
I got to say this, though, and I say it very quickly. I object to the categorization of this sort of mob mentality. And the Congresswoman who just spoke before we started to speak actually praised the company and its history. So I don't think the majority of individuals believe that these companies, by and large, are fraudulent. But you do need to penalize bad behavior, because if you're taking advantage of ordinary Americans, that's bipartisan. From a bipartisan standpoint, I think everybody can agree that there needs to be some punishment.
And everybody can agree that lawmakers always want more power, whether they're on the right or the left. They want more control, whether it's over the pay of people on Wall Street, whether it's over the pay of executives across the board, or whether it's just through regulation, because, again, the more control they have, the more power they have. And
there's
the whole
nothing
reason
wrong.
they're in the
But the
business in the
regulators
first
missed
place.
But there's nothing wrong with
that's the whole point.
accountability, is there? There's nothing
This
wrong
was
with
not-
accountability, and I think that's what they're asking for.
But I'll add that
I'm sorry, I was going to say this fraud was not discovered by the regulators. This was discovered by a private newspaper which unearthed it. And again, they're going to get the regulators $130 million for more controls that they missed in the first place. There's the hypocrisy at work once again.
All right, guys, we don't know what's going to happen. We just know he's got a lot more grilling to go. It is not done, but be on guard about using a hearing to look into actions at one bank as a justification to look into actions at lots of other banks, and maybe reopen Dodd-Frank, maybe tighten it up. So people will pound on this sort of thing.